Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the MMA Corner post-fight wrap-up. Tonight, we give a breakdown of everything that was UFC Fight Night 47, Bader versus OSP. Now, before we get started, tonight's episode is by BattleBomb, the only pain reliever with the knockout power. BattleBomb.com. Check them out. Love their product. Excellent stuff. Tonight's episode is powered by Soul. Power, clarity, comfort. Soul Electronics. Definitely get you some of these or any of the other stuff that they have. Love their products. Love their sound quality. It is excellent. I'm your host, Josh Davis, alongside my co-host, co-editor at the MMAcorner.com, Jason Shelkey. Holy crap, first off, solid night of fights tonight. We had great finishes, great action. Seriously, great night of fights, but did I expected? Jason, give us your thoughts on the overall card.
I was really pleased by all the fights, but the pacing of the event was just horrendous. It was like commercials with some fights splashed in here and there, is what it felt like to me. Because the action was really good, especially the main card, but it just when you have it drug out for so long and have so many commercials in there, it just kind of, took all the air out of the balloon and kind of just made it overall feel kind of just dull, even though we had a lot of great action.
We knew the UFC going to Fox that there'd be a lot of commercials, just like there are during football and every other sports that Fox does. Obviously, a TV advertisement generates a lot of revenue. But tonight's event, from the prelims that started at 6 p.m. on Fox Sports 2 to the end of the main event, we're talking 5 hours. That's a long time, and not all of that is because of commercials, but a good part of that is, again, as a fan, I want to keep everything flowing, but I completely understand why they do the commercials. But you're right, it does take away from the action. It does make it harder to sit through, but it's just one of those things. You can't complain. It's free TV. You know what happens when they take away commercials?
You have to pay for it.
That's what happens. Exactly. So, I'm all for it. But back to the action. The entire card was solid. It really was. Some of the fight placements, again, I might question, but I'm not the UFC. I'm not Dana White. I'm not Joe Silva and Lorenzo Fertitta. So who am I to say one way or the other? But solid night of fights. Let's get right into it. Robbie Peralta versus Thiago Tavares. You tweeted out a stat, while you called it useless, it was very valid. I think it was 56-1 or whatever it was in the striking department. That's a pretty significant stat because it does show what kind of complete and total ass whooping this was. And that's nothing against Robbie, because that kid's got a lot of talent. I certainly wouldn't want to fight him. But going against a submission specialist, a grappling specialist like Thiago Tavares, he was just completely outclassed, and he got his ass handed to him, and that stat pretty much says it all. Now, while he did get knocked out or TKO, he was obviously submitted. It was those strikes that allowed him to cinch up that rear naked choke and get the victory. With that being said, great win for Thiago Tavares, great performance, and I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to be the next guy that fights him, because again, as he continues to evolve and get much better and act the weight class and all that stuff, he's going to be dangerous. Jason, what do you think?
Well, first off, I'm really upset that Robbie Peralta did not represent my hometown of Escondido, California very well this evening. But yeah, like I tweeted out, 56-1, it doesn't get much more lopsided than that, unless it's 56-0. I think on the on our pre-fight show, I said that Tavares, if he got the fight to the ground, that was going to be it. And Peralta, you need to land strikes when they're on their feet in order to win the fight. And obviously he couldn't pull anything off, and Tavares just looked like he was just in a complete another class. He looked huge for 145er, and I'm kind of, yeah, like you said, this dude, he has a legit shot at making a run in the 145-pound division. When I look at the people, I think of potential matchups. I mean, he favors, he looks pretty well against the rest of the people in the top of the division. So, I'm with you. I don't really want to be the next person fighting him either.
No, and obviously his style, his world class submission, that kind of stuff, poses threats for anybody, because if he gets you on the ground, if he gets his hands locked around you, that's pretty much it. He's like an anaconda. He just keeps squeezing tighter and tighter until you can't breathe. And obviously Robbie's the one who was on the sad side of that tonight. But again, great fight for Thiago. Great victory. Continue to look forward to seeing what he's going to do next. And whew, he's going to do big things, I think. All right, moving on. Sean Jordan versus Jack May. Now, if you watched the show on Thursday night, I said that I didn't think that this fight would go past 3 minutes. I was wrong. I figured with as hard as these guys hit and their size and that kind of stuff, I figured we were going to see a quick knockout. Obviously, that was not the case. I don't know what to say about Jack May. I mean, the guy's got a lot of talent, but in the UFC, he has just not been able to put it together. Tonight, he had plenty of opportunities to finish this fight, to put Sean Jordan away, and he could not do it. And come the third round, he paid the price for it. He gave a guy who hits too hard too many chances and ultimately suffered. It was a solid fight, though. I did enjoy the action. And while I'm not sure if the UFC is going to bring Jack back after his second straight loss, he's 0-2 in the UFC now, I do want to see more of Sean Jordan. Do I think he's going to win a heavyweight title or anything like that? No. But there are some heavyweights out there that I think he matches up well against and would make exciting fights. Thoughts?
Well, not only was Jack May not able to finish on Jordan the multiple opportunities he had, he wasn't able to finish a Sean Jordan that's coming off of consecutive knockout losses. So I'm right with you in the boat. I don't think we're going to see Jack May again in the UFC. Sean Jordan, he's one of those guys. He's excited. He's kind of like, he reminds me of Pat Barry in his style. He's going to go out there. He's going to throw his fist. But tonight we did see his wrestling. So, we got to see a little bit more Sean Jordan than we usually get. But it's usually, he goes out there, he knocks someone out, or he gets knocked out. And so, I'm always excited to see him fight. And like you said, I mean, he's going to be kind of a gatekeeper to the division, journeyman, whatever role he's going to play, just kind of an exciting heavyweight to put on cards. So yeah, I mean, he I think he's going to, he fills that role. He's not going to be a contender, but, I always watch him when he fights because he's really exciting. You never know what you're going to get. It's going to be explosive, and it's going to be fun.
Well, and the great thing that I love about Mr. Jordan personally is he always comes to throw his hands. And when people come to throw their hands, usually leads to knockouts one way or the other. So always makes for exciting fights. Moving right along, Alan Jouban versus Seth Pashinsky. Jason, I'll let you start this one off.
I don't even know what to say. I mean, Basinski, he was, had control of the fight. Everything was going his way, and then, out of absolute nowhere, Jouban just creamed him. I mean, it was just a clean, knock his ass out, completely cold knockout. It was beautiful to watch. I wasn't expecting it. And those are the knockouts are the best. The ones that just, come out of thin air. You never expected it to happen. I really had a loss of words on this one too. It was just, really. I mean, it was a great fight for Jouban, great performance, solid knockout victory. But other than that, I really don't know what to say about this one.
first off, hats off to Allen. I mean, obviously, it's a great victory because Seth's a tough dude, and it was one hell of a knockout. Right. Seth winning the fight. If you watch the show again on Thursday, I picked Seth to win. I thought he had more ways in this fight. I thought he was going to be the bigger, stronger opponent. I thought he was going to be able to use his reach. He was doing those things. He even, I don't know if it was a true knockdown, which is just hitting Allen at the right time as he was, off balance. But as soon as that happened, obviously, Allen jumped up and put the ass whooping on him. But great victory for Allen. Great octagon debut. And after the fight, in his interview, that was one of the best comments that I've heard in a while, flat out saying, hey, I don't want a soft guy as I come into the UFC. Give me a tough guy. Give me someone no one wants to fight, that kind of stuff. Those are the types of guys that we want to see in the UFC because, again, they're coming to fight. And, who knows? Allen might be the real deal or he might get his ass whooped in his next 3 fights. The fact is, I want to see more of him, though. It was a great victory for him tonight. Obviously, Seth's coming back tonight. I think was his 10th fight in the octagon. He's not going anywhere. But again, great octagon debut for Allen. So, if you didn't know about him before, obviously definitely keep your eye on him. Moving right along, Tim Boetsch, Brad Tavares. Again, Thursday night. I said that I thought Brad Tavares would be able to quick strike, maneuver, out agility Tim Boetsch, and he'd just be able to pick him apart. And obviously he was doing that. He was even proving that he was the stronger man in the clinch until he got hit with a cinder block. And that's the thing. When you have a guy who hits as hard as Tim Boetsch does, and while I can guarantee you that the guy hits, like I said, with cinder blocks. And, it was the one little short cross that dropped him the first time. I don't think it was that powerful of a shot. But again, as he was getting up, trying to get his bearings, obviously the right hand finished him off. Great power by Tim Boetsch. Great victory. I still think he's overrated, but again, unless you can finish the guy quickly, he always poses a problem. It doesn't matter what you do to him. Ask Yushin Okami. Unless you can get a finish on him quickly, you're always going to be at the mercy of the power that he throws in his hands. With that being said, again, I'm not quick to hype train on him or anything like that. I don't think he needs to be fighting the top 10 guy. I think that, he's, really he is a gatekeeper. Brad Tavares got to be very disappointed with himself. I don't know where he goes from here. Back-to-back losses. He's got a lot of work to do ahead of him. Shelky, give us your thoughts.
Brad Tavares, a lot of people were on that hype train for a while, but now with those back-to-back losses, who knows what's going to happen to him. But Tim Boetsch, I think the way I put it after the fight is that Tim Boetsch pulled off another Tim Boetsch, because it was just, same situation the Okami fight. He was getting his ass whooped. Tavares was getting the better of him for the, round and a half or almost 2 rounds the fight lasted. And then, Boetsch landed that big hand, and you can never underestimate someone's power. I mean, you can be lacking technique, you can be lacking in speed, you can be lacking in the ground game, but if you can hit like a Mack truck, you're always in the fight, and that is what Tim Boetsch has that keeps him somewhat relevant in the middleweight division, is he has that power. He's not, the most athletic guy, but he can knock anybody out. But like you said, I'm not sold on him. I'm not going to be jumping on any hype train. I think he's going to kind of, waver right in there, the, 8 to 12 slot in the division. He's going to be good for these up-and-coming guys to fight, made prime, the higher-ranked guys for upcoming fights. But I don't really see him making a run towards the title ever. But, I mean, you got to give props to him. I mean, he was getting his ass thoroughly kicked, and he was able to come out, land the punch and finish off Tavares.
Now, again, I agree with you. I don't think he's going to be making a run at the title. But about a guy who hits as hard as he does in that division, one punch can land you that championship gold. So anything can happen. Again, if you don't finish him, you're always at the peril of what could happen when he connects with one of his bombs. Again, no, I don't see him making the title run anytime soon. All right, moving right along to the co-main event. Gray, I lost my chin. Maynard versus Ross Pearson. Shall we start us off?
I think it was Middle Easy put it best when they said that Frankie Edgar has Gray Maynard's soul up in his cabinet next to his lightweight title belt. Because Gray Maynard has not been the same since his trilogy with Frankie Edgar. He's lost his capacity to take a punch. 3 out of his last 4 fights, he's been knocked out. He hasn't looked good whatsoever. This is his 3rd loss in a row. I mean, Ross Pearson, he's a good fighter, but a Gray Maynard from 3 years ago would steamroll Ross Pearson. This Gray Maynard's a shell of the fighter that we saw come from Tough 5 and work his way up through the division and earn that spot at the top of the light heavyweight division. Ross Pearson, a great fighter. I think he's finally putting together his game. He looked terrific tonight. However, I think it's time for Gray Maynard to consider calling it a career because it's just getting painful to watch him, lose badly over and over again. So I would like for the people close to Maynard, just my opinion and me caring about, these fighters as human beings, the people close to him sit down, talk to him, and, evaluate where he should go with the remainder of his, with his remainder of his fighting career, or if there even should be one.
Yeah, Gray needs to retire. Now, it's easy for me to say that as I, write articles, do these news shows and stuff like that. One in their training, all that kind of stuff. My family doesn't rely on the income generated from fighting, all of that kind of stuff. So again, it's real easy for me to sit back and say, hey, Gray, you need to retire. But again, he does. I mean, look at his past 3 performances. He's got his ass whooped and got knocked out. That's the main thing. He doesn't have a chin anymore. He's not the bully. I've always thought that Gray was a little overrated. But when Frankie Edgar knocked him out, essentially the end of his career, he has never been the same. He's not been able to take a punch like he used to. And again, the shots that knocked him out tonight were not vicious power shots by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that again, he doesn't have the chin anymore, and again, whether I think he was overrated or not, he was always an exciting fighter. He always brought it, but he's 36 years old, I believe. It's not to give it up,
35,
and
36.
and yeah, 35, 36, whatever. He's mid upper 30s. It's time for him to call it a career. Otherwise, he's going to be forgetting parts of his childhood and going the way of Keith Jardine and just being so punch drunk that no one can understand you. So call it a career, Gray, and best of luck to you. As far as Ross Pearson goes, great victory for him. Really, it should be back-to-back victories over Diego Sanchez and Gray Maynard. Now, is Ross en route to a title shot? I think he still has some work to do. I think he still needs to get better as a fighter, but he's the side right now. He's doing good things, and again, I want to see what the UFC is going to do with him next. But I think they need to handle it, delicately and not just throw him to the wolves. But again, I wouldn't mind seeing him fight top 7, top 5 guy. All right, moving on. Start us off, main event. Ryan Bader, Alvin St. Preux.
Okay, I'm gonna make one last point on the on Gray Maynard and Ross Pearson. I like to kind of parallel Gray Maynard with Roy Jones Jr., even though Maynard never had the level of success, but they each had that one fight that you could see as the downhill of their career. Like the knockout against Frankie Edgar for Maynard was what the knockout from oh geez. Um anyway, I can't remember. His name's Antonio Tarver. Thank you. Um and ever since then they they were never the same fighters. Anyway, Ryan Bader or Vincent Preux, Bader did what he needed to do. He went in there and he wrestled, and Ovin St. Preux, he never used his reach. He had, what was it, 6-7 inch reach advantage and never used it to pump a jab or a front kick or anything to keep Bader away from him during the whole fight. I mean, Bader was able to just wrestle him the whole fight, get him down and beat him up. And I mean, Bader just completely had his way with St. Preux. And I was one that thought that St. Preux was going to have his way with Bader, and I was completely wrong. Bader looked really good. He went out there and he went back to his roots and he did what he needed to do. He didn't try to stand and bang with the person with the long reach advantage. But then again, like I already said, St. Preux, he never used his reach advantage. And his gas tank ran out, I think it was about the second round. After that, his hands were down around his waist. He just looked like he was just, that his tank was on empty and he was on cruise control for the final 3 rounds. But Bader did look good. He did what he needed to do to win, and, kind of, career resurgence. I mean, we're seeing all the ashes, the Phoenix rising from the ashes this year. And, Ryan Bader's just another story of, the year of the comeback. So, mad props to him. And I don't think this is going to be the downfall of St. Preux. I think that he's going to go back, needs to go back and reevaluate a few things and possibly look at his conditioning and his training, and because he has all the tools to be one of the best in the light heavyweight division, but it was shown tonight that he hasn't put it all together. So, and I'm very interested to see where both these guys go, and big props to Bader for doing exactly what he needed to do to win the fight.
Well, I think we've kind of learned a couple of things here. First off, Ryan Bader, slowly but surely coming into his own. Again, I'll go back to what I said on Thursday night. I kind of thought Bader has been overrated. He didn't really have any quality wins in the UFC. He started off 12-0, and since that point, hadn't done really anything. And so I called him out and said, if he's going to say that he's ready to work back up into title contention, that kind of stuff, then he had to put his stamp down on OSP. And tonight, I think he came out and did that. Again, was it an exciting fight? No. He out-wrestled OSP. He was able to control position. He was able to land some good strikes and that kind of stuff. But I still think he has things he needs to improve on before we consider him an elite level fighter. If you follow me on Twitter, one of the things that we were talking about tonight was if Anthony Rumble Johnson was fighting either one of those dudes, the fight would have been over in the first round. Rumble would have knocked them both out. So I think Bader still has some things that he needs to improve on before he's, truly an elite level fighter. But tonight was a solid victory for him. So definitely kudos for him. He's a stud. Great wrestling, great performance. OSP, on the other hand, in my mind, this is the second time, and basically the biggest fight of his career, that he's come out flat, that he's flat out choked, that he didn't do the things that he needed to do to win. And he suffered his first loss in Strikeforce. It was the same thing. And so while this kid has so much talent and can be a great fighter in UFC, he's still got a lot of things to work on as well. He's got to be able to put stuff together, and most importantly, in the big time fights, when all the lights are on him, he's got to show up. If you were watching the broadcast tonight, they did that little piece on him about how he went to the University of Tennessee, and he was talking about playing in front of 110,000 people. If that's the case, then you should be able to show up in prime time when the lights are on you in the UFC, or when you're in these big fights, and he hasn't done that. So there's some things he needs to continue to work on. He will bounce back. He is definitely an exciting fighter. He is certainly someone that the UFC wants to continue to push, so they're going to do so. But now it'll be interesting to see really how they handle Ryan Bader. Where do they throw him from here? Because again, uh, against upper echelon fighters, he hasn't been able to do it. So do you give him another top five guy and see if he can pull off a victory, or do you really just kind of keep him at the gatekeeper of the 8, 9, 10 spot? So it's like I said, it'll be interesting to see what the UFC does. All in all, UFC Fight Night 47, Bader versus St. Preux, solid card. Great free card leading into what the UFC has planned for next week, and so you can't really complain. No, it wasn't the biggest names or anything like that, but the card delivered. They definitely came to fight and they showed up. And again, leading into what the UFC has planned next week, which is UFC Fight Night 48, Bisbane versus Kung Lee. And then UFC Fight Night 49, Henderson versus Dos Anjos, both next Saturday. Great night of fights. Jason, final thoughts.
Thought number one, Thiago Tavares is going to be a beast at 145. I can't wait to see more of him in this division. Tom Watson and Sam Alvey, that was a great fight. Enjoyed every minute of it. Sam, I think he had a solid, yet albeit a little bit lackluster, I don't want to say, I guess is not the right term, but maybe had some octagon jitters, but nonetheless they put on a great fight. Sarah McMahon still has a lot to work on before she should be considered an elite fighter. And if John Jones is going to tweet shit about fighters, he should at least have the balls to not delete it before everybody else on Twitter screen caps it.
Can't argue with that, but again, who am I? Who am I to question or anything like that? A couple of things. Sam Alvey will be back. I don't think it was any octagon jitters. I think he performed well tonight. I think he performed Sam Alvey-esque. I don't want to say he's a slow, lethargic fighter, but he is. That's his style. That's what he does. And then he comes at you with these swarms of punches that just kind of never stop, and he usually finishes you. He had the opportunity to do that tonight. He just, didn't get it done in the third round there. But anyways, it was a great fight. All of the fights tonight were pretty solid. There's not one that I'll go back and say, God, that was just completely garbage. Everyone came to fight tonight. It was a good night for Maine. They should be proud, and the UFC should be proud because again they put on a solid night of fights. All right, guys, a couple housekeeping notes. We will be back tomorrow with the UFC news show, which will be 12 o'clock Mountain Time, 2 p.m. on the East Coast. 11 a.m. On the West Coast. We will also be back Thursday night doing our fight predictions for both UFC cards. Again, that's UFC Fight Night 48, Bisbane versus Kung Lee, and then UFC Fight Night 49, Henderson versus Dos Anjos. And then obviously we will be back on Saturday recapping both shows. Now, if that is not enough for you, definitely go to the MMAcorner.com, your home for all things MMA. We will have everything that you need related to all combat sports. Also, look for some changes coming to the coming to the MMA Corner. In addition to all of our UFC, Bellator, MMA related coverage, we are going to start giving you additional boxing coverage, additional wrestling coverage, anything combat sports related. Again, the MMA Corner has you covered. Now, if you missed tonight's show or tonight's event by the UFC, go to the MMAcorner.com. Shortly, we will have video highlights of all the main action and everything that you need to see. Again, tonight's episode brought to you by Battle Bomb, the only pain reliever with the knockout power. Audio provided by Soul. Until tomorrow, I'm Josh Davis. For Jason Shelkey, keep living the MMA Corner lifestyle. Peace.